Situation cold. Though partly warm? Cats are very cold. Cats have very low body temperature. Weird. As previously, ambitions in the form of getting a grip on 2 geysers. And then tragedy, as both of these geysers have gone dormant for a bit. Meaning the benefits of having sieged them are going to be quite delayed. The base is kind of on reserve. Winter is occurring. Operations are going to kind of contract for a bit. Although, in accordance with the other stuff that's gone down in between, plenty of side games are occurring. I've had more thoughts about helpful design patterns where it naturally. So once the natural gas geyser reawakens, suddenly we have a whole lot of watts of power to just throw around and do whatever with. Stress is a bit much, mostly Josh. Josh might get some time off. Or Josh will be fine. Don't worry about it. So the thing is, among other things that I've had the time to take a look at, the true use of wood. Alcohol. If we take our lumber and distill it into goo, and then burn that goo, another reasonably potent power source. The petrol generator here can take ethanol or petroleum. So if we burn ethanol through this, then we have a pipeline to turn agricultural effort into power in a much more usable way. And furthermore, that whole cycle is actually calibrated such that running an ethanol distillery and burnery actually captures additional water in the form of stank water, but stank water has plenty of use. Also, it's non-contaminated stank water. So all sorts of things get done there. So let me look at the plumbing of this base. Considerations to be had. So I hadn't noticed it at the time, but mealworm here actually doesn't use any water for agriculture. So the hydroponic tiles are wasted on this. They just need dirt. The bristleberries are benefiting from that water, but nothing else. And furthermore, I've seen demonstrated a good alternate approach to water management, particularly with regards to the washroom, of just having all of that run directly on recycled water. You put some amount of fresh water in, and then sieve it and throw it back in. And that works out. That's fine. Now, there's not much clean space in which to kludge a water sieve in there right this minute. Yeah, plumbing in this base is a bit labyrinth, so I probably won't implement that, especially since eventually water will be abundant once we get a full cycle of the geyser properly harvested and so forth. And once we melt the glaciers, the water, the ice chunks. But suppose I did have a water sieve, just able to sit here or somewhere else handy to the bathroom. The water sieve doesn't destroy any liquid, and nothing in here destroys liquid. The lavatories actually add liquid. They put out more stench than fresh water was put in for the flush. So you actually end up, if you're recycling all of your water back into here directly, with a net output of some stink water to accumulate on the side. And the fact that the water you're cycling back is contaminated doesn't matter because it's going to where the contamination comes from. The thing you want to avoid with the water contamination is having any of your stench water end up in food handling. So either in your microbe press or in watering any of your crops, which can be done by just not having those fed by the pipes that have anything to do with the bathroom. Or that suit. Just what we need for the situation. Josh, with your extremely high stress. Put it on. Put on the suit and laugh. People pay well to read your research, I guess. Josh. Dr. Josh. So I have unspent skill points all over the place, although most of the dupes have exhausted all the jobs they like doing. So I need to wait until quality of life gets a lot better before I have them start learning stuff they don't like doing. Harold can still learn a lot. Harold's gonna be a mechatronic engineer. So I need to get this place warmed up so that I can ranch the cats here. And, you know, not have it break down as these pipes burst from freezing. That could be nice. What power do I have available? 1.4 kilowatts. One orb. Yeah, because I'm running like this one coal generator off of my hatchery. But the coal supply isn't terribly abundant. It's reasonably stressed. So if I sneak in, like, a foot wheel to run these heaters a bit at a time. 2 foot wheels. 1 foot wheel and I dismantle one of these heaters. Just let one of them do the full work. Yeah, one of the big objectives here is once we have this place thawed out, I can start making my reeds. Get those suits online. Also, definite firm reconsideration. Even the insulation tubes should be 3 tall. That way I can put suit checkpoints in them. And let me put some airflow in the floor of the refinery room here. There is a lot of stank air down here owing to the slime. As long as slime lung doesn't somehow enter the picture, though, that's fine. This is in fact free oxygen. In its own way. Do you want to try and thaw this room? Maybe take a bite out of this ice. That's worth spending some of my power. Just do all I can to deodorize this. Should consider installing smart battery. Part of bringing this online will be needing to think about, like, having a real power plant. With some heft to it. Also, what's my vent system look like in this base? Pretty simple. Also pretty not active right now, since, yeah, our electrolyzer operation is shut down for the time being. We're back on burning algae for a bit. Yeah, get some art in here. Stress is quite down. Keep plunging the heaters deeper and deeper into the ice. Also, the fact that we have this insulating shell around the back of it, yeah, that's creating a sizable gradient between the ice block and the surrounding air. Just the heat ebbing off of the old glacier, well, the old geyser water. That'll take a sizable bite out of the ice. Will be active for 58 days. In 26 days. And then this will be active for 60 days. In 18 days. Just need to hold out. I think I'm going to tear down these pipes. My eventual temperature control can be built into my life support. Which, whatever form that takes, will be engineered down here. And to greater effect. So this antechamber where ice is happening Just let the heater try to do its work on that. And then over here in the rock, I can start to sketch out what I would even do. Yeah, 10 dupes in this for it. So 2 oxidizers. Well, more than 1 oxidizer can be consumed here. We don't have incoming mail. That's unspent skill points. Why did I switch off the research buildings? To conserve power at some point, probably. Even though they're idle at the moment. I think we're safe to let those keep running. So if I had a pair of electrolyzer, although I also want to spread those out, due to the fundamental issue that you need. Each of these produces enough gas to fill a pipe, although an asterisk immediately shows up next to that, since the fact that it's 2 different gases means that it won't get along. You have 2 packets that are trying to move in. One that's most of the size and one that's the rest of the size, so there's shenanigans immediately created there. And it's a good thing. That's where the fun happens, in the antics. So, other thought, just off the top, is that these should be elevated off of the floor. That way, naturally, they're already putting the hydrogen up out of the way, so it shouldn't be able to sneak out through an airlock. Four pumps is not overkill. 4 pumps is exactsies for this setup. Well, no, I do want this filled in, because I don't want wasted volume in this room. Any dead volume is going to create more space for gas to kind of idle in instead of moving on. And then the pumps themselves need to be at the ceiling of the chamber. That's just where that stops. You can put a heater here, and there's room then to put a thermostat right above it. The oxygen being heavier, what I would do to counter that is actually introduce a layer of heavier gas that would then sit in these low spots and occupy them, so that the active ingredients are always up at the top. Or just allow the room to be brought down to near vacuum. Or, you know, have the pressure sensor to regulate that anyway, because they actually are at their best when they have enough air to bite into. They don't, like, spend less power on drawing less stuff than they can. But anyway, so those vents would then want to pop over here, get sorted, and then be sent off. And if the chamber eventually gets too warm, well, mission accomplished. Alright, I think I'm willing to put this onto the grid now. Leave in a switch. But I can manipulate that as needed. We install that wall after the vent pipes are already in. I don't want to completely wedge these together, since, well, for the hydrogen part of it, that'll be enough. But the two oxygen lines need to be separate on the way out, since this is going to make 8/9 of a tube, and then 8/9 of a tube. For 1 7/9 tubes. The hydrogen will all fit in one pipe on its way out, but I will be creating two oxygen lines as a result of doing this. The air filters don't get in the way of dupe movement, so I could do this in order to both look nice and probably function well. And then everything I'm going to do with these vents after they get out is going to be very different. But for now, I can just kind of tie them in. Just for the initial thinking about. None of this is going to be brought online for a while. Just giving the dupes something to do. So, like... 150 kilograms of air. That's a reasonable blob of life support. Yeah, that's 25 dupe days of life. So 2.5 days of breathable air for this colony in each of these tanks. So if I made a couple of them and kept them topped off, that's a very healthy life support buffer. And another one would fit over there, or up here after a bit of, like, tuning of the reservoir, or actually... Since this thing is kind of empty right now, and we'll probably be moving it somewhere else anyway soon. Could have them replace this floor. And then once that is in, skim out this bit of roof. That leaves me with a nice elegant space to layer in another row of air tanks by just slightly cutting into the abyssalite. Just a bit. Yes, then the oxygen portion of these lines will actually want to bend back to up here. One of them will go up across there. And the other can sneak through the floor to get over here. Oil-related things that I won't use for a while. In pursuit of pump-related things I won't use for a while. Yeah, research can stop for a bit. Bunkers don't come up until we're heading up to the surface to do space things. Is there any salt water in the vicinity of this base? Yes, some. There could be value in running the desalinator. For now, we're more about successfully thawing out all the ice pockets as our main thing to do for water leverage. I can wait. And then, well, caffeination, molecular forge, tubes. Better art. Fancy beds are made of plastic. Yeah, let's learn about art. We'll eventually need to invest in morale. Peel back these tiles and do something with them. Alright, and then... So from the bottom of this spot... I'm going to be able to bridge back out. And then have 2 oxygen tubes. And on these tubes, started using valves in other bases, taking a liking to valves. It's a lot you can make behave much more regularly by using valves. We're also, with that in mind, especially since the basic manual valve doesn't cost any power, it's just there, you can just use it. Hey, what if I had a shutoff for the main water line? And the main septic line, and any given line. Just a manual switch that the dupes can walk over and hit to get things done. Or on that note, helpful thing, toggling. Very high priority for everyone, always. It's not governed by a skill, and it's a job that only comes up because you said it should happen. So, the nearest available dupe should immediately divert and do it, regardless of situation. Always be flipping switches. Yeah, so with these valves you can set a cap on flow rate through a tube, which could say, make sure that it's never overdrawing. Guarantee that it's creating a buffer in an abundance. Where so 3/8 gas per second are nominally going into each of those, on average, off the pair of electrolyzers. So if I cap this at 800, and then say, at my receiving vents, allow 100 grams per second of gas to be let into a room, you know, the equivalent of one dupe being present and needing fresh breath, then I know that each of those vents should be good for 8 rooms. At those rates. Or, you know, if I decide on other rates, I can immediately adjust things accordingly with the valves. So, for example, with this layout, where would I want an airflow, an air inlet? I need, like, one over at the farm, and maybe... I'd do some manner of shared ventilation across the Hab complex. Since while all 10 dupes are here breathing at the same time at night, they're only there at night for those 3 hours of the day, so they have plenty of time to replenish the oxygen supply during the morning when no one is here. In fact, so it's 3 hours of night? Yeah, there's 3 hours of sleep that we give them every day. Which, you know, since a day is 10 minutes, that's 25 seconds each night? Yes, only 2.5 kilograms of oxygen need to be available in the nearby atmosphere for them to have fresh breath all through sleep. If I spread that out over the day, quick bit of back of the envelope map, I'd only need like 40 grams per second, maybe, to actually be coming into here. So if I just had like one valve with 100 flow available, feeding into all of the bedrooms, that would suffice for life support for sleep. And the rest of the air, I would want it to arrive other places where people are living and working. So that carbon skimmer is still running. Yeah, the important B side of life support that keeps looking like it would be really inconvenient to put together is actively pulling the CO2 out of other parts of the base and sending it down to skimmers. Or up to skimmers, or left to skimmers. You could put the skimmers wherever you like. They'd get the job done. Yeah, let me close the doors. In every direction where that can occur. Oh, right, the fact that this vent is going down here means I should extend this ladder. And let me just queue up insulating everything above that ice so it gets properly defrosted. Uproot this oxyfern and move it down here. No, don't uproot. The oxyfern can stay where it is. It's fine. It does its best. All sorts of things about this base in general are in need of a refit. They can be addressed. But yeah, we're getting power flickering again. Yeah, we're not ready for this. If I did any, like, drastic rebuilding of the base top to bottom, it would probably start from up here with what is mostly a reasonably shaped power plant. And then involve, you know, extruding out the rest of the base below that. This place has managed to thaw a little bit. Polluted water isn't freezing anymore as it waits in the pipes. Pufflets wouldn't be terribly helpful here. So, yeah, let's just decline. Reroll. I have someone who primarily digs, someone who primarily builds. Bubbles, you are a logistics dupe. Bert is mostly research, so Bert should then be secondary operating? Yeah. Research, operate, fight if you have to. Rowan's our chef. And that is by far top priority, chef and then doctor. Primary rancher, primary farmer. Other main research and then operations dupe. Other logistics and janitorial dupe. What all is running on this circuit? The one that stays properly fed all the damn time. The core oxygen diffusers, the research station. That space heater. And the kitchen. Yeah, so that circuit is keeping the core of the base pleasantly warm-ish. That gets a lot done. Yes, I did make sure to properly filter down the hatch diet.
Beep.
They're only eating what they should now. It's all standard hatch for the time being. Yeah, the interior of this farm room is now slightly warmer. It's still not really there yet. Breeze will not survive in these conditions. I'll replant them. Disable this heater. Just focus on this one, getting this room thawed. That will let the lumber supply really try to take off. At which point I can think about distilling ethanol. Well, alright, so one of these are 240 watts each. And it takes 4 of them to put out enough liquid to run a petrol generator continuously. Yeah, 2 kilograms a second of flammable liquid. Yeah, 4 of these, which in turn require much lumber. It won't be able to run continuously for a while, but the ambition to build towards. It means the structure I house it in may as well be meant to accommodate that. If I go up into this this block of igneous rock, this obsidian plug here. And even spatially, that makes a fair amount of sense, since wood starts getting produced here, gets brought up here, stockpiled, distilled, burned. We'll need a lot more trees in order to be generating enough wood for that to matter. Regardless, let's begin, and I'll build reasonably close to this ice block. I would like to thaw it out and drain it and send it on its way, as you do. So, distillers, accessed via ladders, built into a pleasant, regular tile housing, storage bins to which to deliver fresh supplies of ethanol. And then, on top of the distillery, since those in turn together add up to essentially a kilowatt of power, just shy. Yeah, 960, the effectively a kilowatt. So there is one transformer here, taking half of the power that could be coming out of the peak generator, and feeding it down to the distillers. Although, with that in mind, nah, no need to get fancy here. The ones that are offline won't be drawing power. I can just disable the machine itself. So, transformer.
Beep.
Wire. Now, so further above this is where we mount the generator. 5 tons of fluid. Each of those would provide 4 days of uptime, buffered potentially if the generator were running under strength. And so once again, like the natural gas generator, this just drips polluted water onto the floor beneath it. So I want like a 3-tile elevation. Or just a sizable open expanse beneath it. So I can provide that drainage. Yeah, that'll do for access. It'll be capable of draining itself out. It shouldn't be accumulating liquid. If liquid is coming into it, it's because the generator is running, and there will, therefore, be power to run this pump. So then, like, the big power cable could just kind of fall off the side of the building and come in here. I had a passive solution for drainage. That would save a lot. Like if instead of having a pit that I'm intending to fill and then pump out, I just set up the side of the building in its entirety to drip, open up a space here, and then maybe even make a wastewater handling center here, where, you know, it can just spill off the side of the building down into this pristine, untouched wilderness. So, some smart batteries. With these and some logic, I could have the generator throttle itself smartly to avoid frivolous power use. Just have those glued directly to the main line. Yeah, this thing also vents exhaust gas not into a pipe, but just into the vicinity as well. So that will build up and need to be allowed to leave somehow. Probably just by oozing out through the same side exhaust port that we're building here. Well, have the wire just boost up and over. I can have this here acting as a bit of a gas trap, just to be sure that things ebb that way. Get myself a nice chunk of rust. And yeah, but just leaving this open and not worrying about an airlock. You can have the heavy wire run right out the front door. When do I stream? Most days of the week. Evenings, Eastern Time. There is a schedule posted that is kept vaguely up to date. With just a slight adjustment to that. Slight adjustment to this insulation tunnel. Not even that, I just remove this raised bit. Slap another airlock there for flow control, and then the exhaust will drip out here, down here, and then organically make its way around through the ventilation tunnel to the engineering area. Then I would just need to, like, add either a fresh tunnel around here, or move this door back here and open up just like a very thin channel, and it would eventually make its way all the way down. Well, if I'm reading right, well, the approach I'm thinking of here for setting up the generator is that I should be able to just directly put it on the smart wire for the time being. Yeah, the generator itself accepts wire. So I would have one of these batteries that just says, okay, if the entire base is receiving a surplus of power and I have managed to build charge, then good times, stop. Take a nap. It's fine. Right, the feature I haven't built into this yet is the storage tanks for the liquid. Skipped over that step. Where would I put my ethanol buffer here? Probably into this volume that's being conveniently opened up. Since these don't require power or any, like, logistical connection, they just want to be here. And ethanol survives in all the temperature ranges that are going to happen for this base. That's fine. And then we attach pipes. Where even one pipe has all the throughput that this setup needs. So my only consideration with these buffers is that I just want to chain them together into one long liquid store that I can look at. Yes. And this setup, as a whole, will have plenty of time to reconsider anything about itself. Since our first power solution is, in 2 more weeks, the natural gas geyser comes back on, and we prime the gas generator, and then it activates, and we're good to go for a while. We'll have vast mounds of energy. Degrees in some parts of the room. Yes, this valve exists now. I want to snip this pipe, re-establish it under control of the valve. The valve will just stay open for now, but I like having it there. And so with that in mind as well, yeah, let's get a smart battery up here. That's also reading the main. In addition to just being a good... better... Are they any better at... Yeah, they're half the waste heat. Lower capacity than Jumbo Battery. But much less runoff. They're better... They're more efficient. In exchange for less raw storage capacity. Which, really, especially with switching over to these, you'd rather store your energy as unspent fuel than as battery. And just have the systems in place to deliver your fuel at the moment it's needed. No more, no less. This is a situation where valves would be helpful if I were to redesign how all this pipe snake is going. So, thinking wire. All of you, listen to the battery. It will tell you when things are fine. And implicitly, when things are not fine. I think I can stop making mush fry. And lice loaf. Well, wait, so 10 dupes. And the bare basics, just using unboosted, unilluminated meal wood, 3 plants will feed a dupe. We've got 12 of those. And then the 6 gristleberry, which the gristles are slightly better. The bristle blossoms. So that is 6 dupes of food spoken for. And that's the source of the food problem. That's why I have needed to resort to mash. I just need to install a slightly more food plant somewhere. Somewhere nearby that's within the climate control zone. Let's see, I need 10 to 30 degree conditions, which is mostly inside the main belt right now. Not properly using lumber yet, so I could afford uproot those trees. On the expectation that the new trees over there will do a much better job. And then also I'll be able to install further trees, perhaps, once I reclaim some of this volume. After the original ice brick is gone, a second tree farm could go in. Only need a little bit of reed. Not much air out here. Okay, good. That has been reined back, so I can put in these other oxygen tanks. And then start to think about how I want the new vents to be set up. So for now, hydrogen tube can carry on off to this generator. And when it indeed proves that there's room for a second generator, I can just install that on the roof. Chain that out pretty cleanly. So, starting from up here, I can undelete that. One gas valve, controlling flow to both a vent here by the pump and a vent in there by the life support chamber. There should be some in here for when people come in to do maintenance, but not a lot is necessary. And inside the chamber itself, there's going to be however much air hasn't yet been pulled out by the pumps. The freshest air lives there. So I can undelete those. You scoot in down there. Just stripping out that unnecessary bridge. And so that'll be our first 100 grams off of this pump. And roll back this. And just start listing off places where you would put some vents. Places where dupes will need to be able to breathe. Yeah, one inside of the foundry. And I will put regular tile back up here instead of airflow. Put the control valve out here. Alright, and so this tube is the lower tube, the left tube. We'll start allocating things off of here. So, 1, 2. A third tube that goes up to just this vicinity of the shower. shower and the suit forges. Which I'm thinking can slide some doors in there. And that can all just live together up there. And so that vent is going away. That's the exhaust pipe coming down from the power plants, throwing carbon at the skimmer. That should also have an airlock going. Or the vent should be on the floor. Yeah, so that the carbon is naturally being dropped off below the nearby oxygen, which is at reasonable pressure, actually. For now, down here. So, an air vent serving the showers and the textile zone. Get a valve controlling it. Left-hand pipe is going to make its way up this side of the base. So, guys, 1, 2, 3 stops so far. 4th stop would be in here in agriculture zone, which is one continuous block of mesh, so that gets along well. I don't want to open up a hole in the floor with the farm tiles on an exterior wall. So, 4th destination for the left vent. Right-hand vent will start in the machine room and make its way up through all of this. For 5 and 6, stops at the lavatory and the mess hall. Although, the mess hall is going to leave this service nook after we've melted the ice. The mess hall ends up in that glacier. So, the printer will receive a vent, and then the airflow tile there will let that vent also count for the temporary mess hall. Yeah. I want to keep the primary trunk line here as simple as possible. Try to avoid situations where the individual packets of air will get confused. Alright, stop at the hatch branch. Number 7 on our list. Just let them look at the valve. They'll love it. Look at the valve in the back. Whenever someday there are hatch in the second compartment. And then our final stop, we arrive up here and provide a little bit of life support to the upper reaches. Yeah, that vent is pulling swamp air down into the base. Which is perfectly safe to breathe, and no concern for anyone. I'll reuse that vent. Swamp pipe can stay for now, since that's also part of, like, the power exhaust system, really. What were you set up to store? Or, no, I have this pipe backward. Yeah, I'm buffering the swamp gas here and releasing it back into the vicinity. This one is a leftover pipe from when I had a suit dock up here for a while. This pipe can be torn down. This pipe is no longer necessary. Which is to say, that pipe can be repurposed for the setup we're building now. Jumps aren't necessary. This will just zoop over to there. Then all of this length gets torn down. And so does this length, since there's going to be a new life support pipe for that area. So, the right-hand pipe, which is coming up here. And providing air here. It would be nice if you could, like, dye the pipe networks different colors, yes. That would provide some handy shorthand. Air is already being delivered there. It's being delivered here. The next stop for the right-hand line would be water? Yeah, the whole waterworks zone. Well, remember, that's carbon tube. Since these rooms are already covered, this pipe should spend its time to the right of the carbon exhaust. Or it might be fine where it is. The valves all need to be in places that exist. The vents have the luxury of, well, the bridges have the luxury of being just on the ventilation layer and nowhere else. Yeah, so then here, put in what we had. 2 destinations so far for right-hand pipe. Need to open up a hole in the molding. But so yeah, 1 valve controlling the flow into the full suite of residential ventilation. Yeah, which will consist of a tube tunneling in here, popping over the exhaust, then coming nice and squarely up the middle, branching out to each room as it goes. Now, without even more valve hell, this is going to get pretty lopsided, but don't worry about it. It's fine. Since, as part of this setup, I'm also going to replace more of our old light doors with airlocks. Yeah, so valve pipe goes in there, provides however much pressure we allocate into that. Printer's ready. With omelets. Fresh eggs. Excellent. You love to see it. Burnt out breakfast. "21 days till hot water returns. 13 days till power goes on." Someday these trees will thaw. This corner is at least getting pretty warm. And that'll be the start of it. Once even a single thimble reed hits livable body temperature, anything could happen. Yes, other destinations. I want to put oxygen into this farm. Into this utility area that's going to become a mess hall later. And then up to the ethanol distillery. And into this service corridor, I guess. And this vent is being deprecated. That just doesn't need to be here at all. Right, and that's everywhere I'm thinking of hooking up oxygen to for now. A vaguely centralized life support system. Yeah, that'll keep happening. And so let's see, hey, electrolyzers. You use 1 kilogram of water per second each. I just threw down a plumbing valve. In here. Since that's another thing that'll help you control liquid and liquid temperature whenever you have temperature concerns for fluids. The moment liquid gets to the machine, it gets successfully, consumed and taken out of the system. It doesn't have to worry about sitting idle in the pipes, losing all of its heat. So if I have a throttle here that makes sure that only exactly as much fluid as these two electrolyzers will eat is making its way in here, then that's just what will happen. Water situation is slightly tense. Some effort will have to go into disentangling. Yeah, those trees will fail. I can't replant those trees really until the heat successfully catches on. For the most part, the crew knows what they're for and how they do. Yeah, the farm tiles themselves are going to be a hole in the insulation. So that should be adjusted. You could also hoist them up into... Well, no, but then I'd lose out on the benefits of hydroponics. So, no, I'll just work out how to cap them with more insulation. Ah, the old everything box. Everything but ice. Fine, defendable piece of machinery. Yeah, I got 300 tons of dirt. We're not running out of basic plants anytime soon. So given the tension that's on water right now, probably put an end to bristleberry. Settle for just mealwood. Yeah, mealwood seeds, too many, always. What they're for. We need to resume active heating of this block. How we're gonna get any immediately accessible water. This is the big labor sink right now. Destroying this iceberg. And then this other iceberg. Important heating to do. We've been at war with this iceberg for 100 days and we've barely put a dent in it. Used to be over here and now it's over there. Heater's managed to get proper hot. Doing its best. Yeah, this edge is about to give way. Yeah, so with that conversion, all of this being hydroponic tile is now wasted. Maybe instead hope to recover that water and put it back to use elsewhere. Yeah, just use a liquid bridge to flip it back over onto the main line. That'll do it. Now drain. Right? Drain? Come on, drain. One corner of the room is now positively balmy, 23 degrees. This thimbleweed is almost alive. Of all the projects going on right now, life support Mark II, which, right, I need to establish power hookup for the interior here. That's the other thing. Yeah, so I need one circuit for all of these pumps, and then a circuit for the miscellanea. For 2 electrolyzers and a space heater. Ah, but then also the gas filters. That'd be exactly too much to also run on the carbon skimmer. I have room to situate the transformers in here. Though I'm spending a lot of my backlog of metal. That space heater will be coming out. And when that happens, this wire will be snipped. Need to go ahead and dig up more metal ore. "100 days. Its own small victory." Yeah, so I need to chop a bunch of this up. Lower circuit. 2 filters, 2 electrolyzers, a space heater, which might get shut off eventually. That would have enough left over for... Yeah, for the pump and the skimmer. Yes. This small wire can run back over there. Then we'll cut that. And replace all of this with heavy wire, and the transformer that's up here right now will get shut off. That can just be removed. And nominally, 2 hydrogen generators run off of the exhaust from the electrolyzers. "18 cycles to the return of water. 10 days till main power. Then we'll have all the kilowatts. Watts beyond measure, cat. Welcome." And this room is now entirely stench. Someone deodorize that. Oh, so additionally, all the ethanol distilling here, that's going to generate a lot of stench dirt. Which will mean a lot of compost heaps need to exist. Conveniently, all situated under this iceberg. Funny how that works out. Yeah, 333, so it takes 3 heaps, 3 1/3 heaps to process 1 full-time distiller. Harold. Harold. Come on, Harold. He tunneled his way up here and got trapped without an exit. Industrious. Good thinking, Harold. I don't know if heat has a preference to rise. It seems to be kind of omnidirectional. Heat sources seem to just go wherever they please. Hey! Life. Swamp life. On a glacier. Got there. Swamp lives in death. Yeah, so 7 there. We'll cover those 2, so I need another row like that. Strictly speaking. Be able to refine all that stench dirt, which also, so the dirt cycle here is also positive. We'll be generating dirt and stench water out of having the full distillery loop. In exchange for a bunch of heat. The horror. How will we survive? What hope can there be? I don't like the thought of actually digging into the ice. I'd rather defeat it properly. Suppose I could put a bunch of compost heaps inside the utility tunnel. Nothing's stopping me. Yeah, so 14 heaps. More than enough to crunch 4 distillers. Even 1 petrol generator is a pretty big operation. Half of its power gets tied up in just processing its fuel. Then the other half is free energy, available for use throughout the colony. Okay, yeah, the heat is making headway against the water. We're keeping up with that glacier, so that's gonna be alright. Still haven't drained this. Weird. Yes. Break that bridge. I feel like the skill tree mentioned the ability to empty pipes. Under plumbing. But does anyone have actual tidying skill? You, Bubbles. You know how to empty pipes. I think I just vent the liquid. Oh, it's an entire button to itself. To unclog tubes. Alright. Weird. Alright, so throttle you. As these valves get in, get somebody to properly set them. Well, there's condensation. It's either condensation or it is seepage. From something. A lot of mystery water keeps pooling up in places. Oh, I'm not disassembling these pipe yet. And those ones don't even have the liquid in them. Yeah, which means they're just getting removed. Alright, those vents are all in, so I can encase them in insulation. Nails. Nails. You'll have to break this tile. We'll put it back later. There, now escape. This chunk of ice can't decide. Got these bits on the borderline between states. How do you suffocate in the life support room? They do their best. Well, but there's no... No, there is coolant in the thing. I'm low on metal in general since I've been doing all this building. Water is not making it past the lavatory. Well, this pipe hell I invented is probably making the water very afraid and upset. Yeah, there we go. Now water's moving. With the insulation in the space heater, we're making a bit of headway in trying to thaw that block of ice. Which, as far as I can tell, is all clean. I get all our stench water into circulation. Get it all where it belongs. Slid back a bit. Yeah, the heater is getting some downtime, and it's only just starting to get the room properly warm. There, much of the future life support system is coming into place. Now set that valve. And we might actually get time to put the conductive plating in behind the steam vent. Life support chamber will be done soon. And there is an abundance of rocks out there, waiting to be made into this wall. For the condensing chamber. Okay, polluted oxygen still behaves like oxygen, chemically. That was one thought for where we might be getting all this random polluted water that keeps showing up places. Or are you in fact seeping through the floor of my reservoir? And that's why my reservoir seems to be chronically empty. A gap in the stank seal. It's a now kind of job, folks. Pile into it. Alright, that valve now exists. Although, yeah, just gotta snip one pipe. To give that valve actual control. Put a storage cube for stench ice here over some mesh so I can have that melt in a safe environment. Absolutely no. You poor children, you were sent to the wrong address. There's nothing for you here. Sage egg. Seven days. So all of this has been a side effect of that leak. It's been steadily pouring down into the life support project since it began. But now that's been sealed, so everything should be fine. And this room is going to become nice and insulated. Should warm up quickly once we have it activated. Thermostat. Yeah, just keep it above freezing. That's all we ask here. So now, cut that wire. And this wire. And we refit that and that. Cut this completely. And these just become some batteries on the main. I have one local smart battery, so I can also automatically throttle those off. Since the moment all of these power systems become available, I'm going to suddenly have an energy surplus. At least one duplicate. Got there. Yeah, so life support pod, mostly together. Looking good. Yeah, once this starts to melt in earnest, we just prop open the door and let it all flood down. Adding thermal panels here wouldn't help with what we're, Conduction isn't the problem in here yet. There's a lot of raw power that is needed just to get the room up to temperature. Yeah, I need to finish wrapping this in insulation and then just put enough work into the air to get it good and hot. Some of the reed are surviving. I have a whole another pair of reed fiber. That's another suit? That's another suit. Takes less fiber to make an extreme temperature suit. Than it does to make a vest. Weird. I guess the extreme suits are more made of metal plate than made of the soft goo. Where's that pipe go? Oh, that's the water coming down. The cycling water. We just keep rotating around the base for a little bit of thermal normalizing. You know, between quite cold and more cold. Nice scalding carbon. Just keep at it. Well, I guess life support is on. Place seems to be warming up successfully. And if this also just becomes a very warm spot, that just creates an opportunity to cool something else by cycling liquid through the electrolyzer. Very important beeps. How many of my destination vents are online at this point? Far from all of them. I guess that construction becomes the next tier 6 job. Just finishing all of the air vents. Wait, hold up. I installed this vent, but then didn't trace a path. Make it actually hook up to the vent system. Yeah, this shouldn't have stopped here. There we go. And yes, if the air being generated is leaving here warm, which, yes, it is, that means that the system will make some attempt to heat the base. It will lose a lot of that warmth as it travels out of the oxidizer. It'll do its best, though. Like, yeah, by the time it's getting up here to the oxygen stores, it's already down to 15 degrees. Which is fine, that just means it's gonna warm the vicinity. One very warm, very oxygenated room. Down below. And that is only getting interruptions because we haven't yet reconnected big power. So that, tier 7 job. Yeah, this is just experiencing the delay, the latency, the flexibility created by the inefficiencies of distributing the gas. And just like that, backlog of oxygen begins to form. Someone please build that vent. Build these vents. Doing great things for the air quality in the base. look at our overall breathability. Pretty decent. Yeah, we're going to be pushing this carbon out of there. By establishing that local O2 source, and it'll eventually just ooze out. No, this all carries a price. That I am once again consuming water instead of mostly preserving water. There. Deodorizer does its best. Yet life support up here is provided by the swamp exhaust. That's helpful, actually. Possible I'd rather permit a little bit. During the off-season, we could let the swamp gas make its way up here, and this becomes a passive, small life support system. It'll be active for 60 days. We'll have plenty of time to do something else. All the work done by harnessing the geyser for those 60 days will be more than enough to start up the ethanol distillery and do all sorts of other things. To make more of the base warm. That'll be an achievement. The space heater made of gold amalgam. Good stuff. The space heater is the coldest part of that room because it's not online. The thermostat is satisfied. Didn't anticipate how quickly this room would warm up under 2 electrolyzers. I can just take the heater out. This is not going to be necessary. This room is self-heating. And, yep, we have the mains active down here. We are on the grid. So. High threshold. And low threshold. Yeah, sends red if it is above the max, sends green if it is below the minimum. Which is capability you would want for fancier load balancing systems if you're like switching between different setups. And look at that buffer. Look at all that perfectly good air. Which also, because I'm throttling this to exactly 16, but what we're getting from two of these is more like 17 and a bit. Life support is fundamentally going to back up and buffer while operating at full power. By design. And if we achieve like a full hefty backlog of oxygen, that just means I can open up the vents and let even more gas out. That's just bonus air for everyone. Stank ice, all here. Wherever it should emerge, just shove it in that cube. Importantly, the methane and the ethanol are both also water sources. All three of our options here are combined water and power. Salt. Alright, time to tear out the algae terrariums. And the diffusers. We don't do algae anymore. Well, we will eventually resume algae. When the time for that arrives, it'll also happen in a more centralized manner. I'll set up a room with diffusers and then feed them into the vents. Space heater does its best. Which, wait, now that the mains are back on and big, reasonably so. Try to get this started again. The Thimbleweed is alive and well. Just the one for now. Just the one nearest the heater. It does its best. There are now many positive temperatures in this room. Only the pipes themselves are still frigid. Keeping an eye out for when more vents get installed. I already said you a while ago. Stress is cleared up. Everyone's having a good time. Only 390 watts on that circuit for now. Yeah, let me shove another heater in here. Because once we get this up to working temperature, then by quirks of the mechanics, trees just by being alive add heat. Because when they grow their limbs, those emerge at a set temperature, and they are spontaneously generated mass. It's free matter. And hopefully just by extending this insulation a little better. This is valid. This is a traversable corridor. They'll walk in here and then kind of climb up. They'll kind of scoot, kind of snake their way in. Yeah, just by extending the insulation in general, I can take more control of how much heat is in the base. And of course, down here, taking advantage of the complementary abyssalite. For that perfect insulative power. And over here, I want a heat sink to help with the condensation. Where'd all this come from? Were some of those pipe actually alive when I tore them apart? Did that happen? Is that permissible? I figured this pipe would be shut down by now. But it is also just regular water. I can let it fall. It's fine. It'll all find somewhere to belong. 3 days. And food is available, power is operational, air is breathable, water is not yet depleted. Water is functional. Should have another compost heap out here. Base heater is very doing its best. Look at that. It managed to take a bite. It's managed to open up a layer. We're gaining ground against the ice. Harold is personally doing battle against the ice brick every night just by laying there. Good work, Harold. Power drop. Yeah, that'll happen. As I extend power to more things in exchange for all that. We seem to be doing an okay job of maintaining one coal generator. Yeah, so the new electrolyzer has been built. The beating heart of the facility. A healthy oxygen backlog exists, so even if something went wrong with this, we still have many days of air just stowed in tanks ready to go, already set up to be distributed throughout the colony. Air contaminated with stank, but don't worry about that. That's fine. How'd that get in there? I guess the dripping. Germs got on the air pumps. And thus briefly into the tubes. They probably can't survive in there very well, though. In pure oxygen, pressurized, chilled oxygen, should be fine. Like, yeah, it's not an airborne pathogen. Just be cautious, the vents will sneeze on you from time to time. Your hookup has been built, in fact. Oh, the valve is not yet connected to the vent. Yeah, in abstract, the oxygen system is doubling as a heating system because there is heat trying to leave the electrolyzer. On another note, just a little adjustment I could make to this is to strictly enforce the split between the two generators. Have a valve here, throttled to 90 grams. And then a second valve, also throttled to 90 grams. Yeah, and once max... There is a concept of overpressure for the liquid vents. Once there is a ton of water in that square, this will stop accepting liquid, fulfilling its role as being the reserve that we keep for direct manual access via the pitcher pump. And we're back at work on the upper ice block. With 2 space heaters. We'll have an artificial swamp in no time. Wait, let's see how much... Well, the amount of air in here is also less important than the mass of the plants themselves that needs to be heated up. And of the irrigation liquid. Which does its best to arrive via insulated pipe. 13 degrees. Swamp for cats. Alright, we have a full insulating shell around Swamp Farm. And this should extend out just one more tile. Two more tiles. A few more tiles.
Beep.
Since that's my drain, that's just going to kind of open sewer its way through this ventilation duct till such time as I feel like installing an active control. We are achieving some degree of heat.
Beep.
Indeed. Oh, this one is actually getting really spicy. Oh, yeah, because we're making them out of Some of them are being made of gold. Which makes them better at their job, because they can make it up to way hot. The copper one would have melted by now. Okay, carbon egg. We can take those. We can give them a good home as lunch. Air up here is relatively clean thanks to the deodorizers being well at work. And the fact that dupes haven't been up here since construction finished, because the facility is overall offline. And even once it is online again, there's nothing to do. It doesn't require any hands-on work. When the gas is present again, we hit the switch and evacuate the chamber, and then power. Should move that one over here so that I can then prop up an airlock there. Temperature only -1. It's going to happen. We will defeat the cold. In time. 9 days till water season. Tomorrow and change. The gas. And yeah, that is already plumbed up to the sewer man. And we'll get comfortably delivered to the septic tank. Hot and ready. Let's make sweaters. Anyone who's not in an exosuit should be dressed for the weather. And with even just this tiny corner of the swamp farm online, that's reed fiber. We have it. It lives. Speaking of the vents, thinking of the vents, how warm is the... Okay, by the time the oxygen is getting out to the outskirts of the base, it's extremely cold. Yeah, pumping the air out of here doesn't do that much for cooling the mechanism. Although I guess the temperature seems stable. So, good enough. Yeah, it'll reach an equilibrium. If this is just the temperature it runs at, that's how it goes. There's clean water contaminating the septic tank. This will not do. Somebody mop that. The insulation is doing its job. It's time. It's here. Hit the switch. Sound the alarm. Alright, you just need to grab one packet of natural gas. It'll take a moment to get the first little bit of swamp out. Just a couple kilograms of swamp air to clear out. And there's the payload. Starting now. Just light that moat. And fresh swamp gas isn't seeping in. There's no biosurfaces inside here, or that crack. Going to create a problem. It's not superheated yet. Someone just quickly sprints in. I just assigned this Atmos suit 2 nails. It'll be good for 1 tank. First one's free. There we go, now you're getting the good gas. Or, you know, bubbles will just do it. Here's Nails. Here's Nails wearing proper safety equipment, like a champion. There's Devin just kind of getting it done regardless. Alright, there should no longer be swamp contamination. That seems like it's a tight seal against the neutronium. And yeah, we're getting nothing but methane. Beautiful. Main power lives. Three kilowatts of glorious natural gas. Well, yeah, 3 kilowatts of glorious natural gas. 3.2. As long as the gas has time to pump out and start accumulating in the tanks. And the water makes its way down. And, yeah, that's entirely okay to just be sieved immediately as it arrives. It's all good stuff. Finally, the eruption. Everything's gonna be okay. Power is real. And, yeah, Nails, you can take off that suit. Until I start setting up proper checkpoints, or have a lot more Atmo suits to go around. Okay, so the warm sweater got made. But I didn't hand it to anyone yet. Is there a menu for that? Wouldn't be consumables. Vitals, maybe? Maybe just open an individual dupe. And it looks like the pumps are keeping pace with the output of the geyser. Which, yeah, 300 grams per second during the eruption. Yeah, we have that. We entirely have that under control. And want to get that smart battery built so I can properly throttle these things back when they aren't needed. Power's on forever. Glorious. Power's on for at least the next 2 months, which is basically forever. Base out of danger. Situation looking up. And as an epilogue, let me show you Unfortunate Base here. Unfortunate Base was founded on the opposite of Shell World. Unfortunate bases on Magma Planet. Where, for an example of the naturally occurring environment of Magma Planet, you can see here's some 40-degree dirt, some 45-degree dirt. Here's some 100-degree steam cloud. Because by my reckoning, well, what we have over here is a glacier. There are glaciers somehow on Magma Planet. And I'd guess immediately off camera here is some sort of volcano or magma vent that is in the process of boiling this glacier out of existence. As you do. Fortunately, oh, and there's also over here is another extreme temperature zone. There's going to be a big old magma pool right behind this abyssalite. Fortunately, this is the site of the development of a top secret duplicate thermodynamic weapon. A way to fight back against the heat death. Behold, Chilldozer. Where to explain this, I've discussed it in a couple of streams. So, the Ice Maker, which puts out 16,000 DTU, while it spends 60 watts of electricity to chill some water into ice. If you watch it do this, though, and time it doing this, the rate that it's cooling that 30 kilograms of ice is actually faster than 16 kilodeets per second. The Ice Maker is just slightly a heat-negative process. These are witchcraft. These are powerful thermodynamic magic. Very narrow, it's very gentle. It's only like a net 4K heat sink for each of these. And it's in exchange for the logistics problem of the machine gets very hot and the chunk of ice does take a lot of effort to remelt. But once you do so, you have in fact destroyed heat. And every power source that you have in the game is heat efficient enough that it can cancel out its full heat output by diverting just a fraction of its power output into ice machines. So I have here an array of 12 ice machines, and you could count the water pump down here that's circulating liquid behind them as part of the Chilldozer. In spirit, this is the case. So I have water circulating behind it, radiant pipe into this pit, where this automatic dispenser is being used to throw ice chunks into this well, where they sit and thaw and eventually reliquefy to be grabbed by this pump and thrown back into the ice machines. Now, the drawback of the Chilldozer is these need to be operated manually by the dupes. You can't, at least to my knowledge yet, get them auto-fed and emptied. Maybe by integrating auto-sweepers and conveyor systems, there might be a way to create a fully hands-off Chilldozer. Though that would also be at the cost of electricity, which could affect the ratios. With these barriers, we become heat negative, which you wouldn't think from this being the hottest part of the interior of the base. But consider, it is at most 43 degrees in here, inside of the housing of Chilldozer. It is, yeah, it's 45, 47, 50 degrees is pretty normal out in the Hell Rock beyond. And also, for as warm as all of this is, this 3-ton ice boulder sitting over here is colder still. And all of this was built and is currently maintained by just 5 duplicates. You can run light for a very good while. You can also, if you look around here, you can see this is where I prototyped out the ideas that are now part of the life support system over in the other base, where I have this little electrolyzer set up here, buffering its hydrogen off on the side for a burner, and then carefully meter out its oxygen to all the different vents. And in the case of this base, I have the storage tank set up as just like a side path, valve in, valve out. Use that to control whether this is accumulating or dispensing back into the network. This is the kind of experiment that is happening in my side games. And just for another little look around, let me show you, well, the wood planet might be off to a better start for wood planets. Homestead was about to start collapsing, but probably better demonstrates the architecture. So, the wood planet, Arborea, or whatever it's called, you start off in forest biome. One of the challenges that offers you is there's no algae in forest biome. It's just not there. So you don't use diffusers or terraria. What you do is oxyfern exist inside of that biome. And actually, yeah, this is far enough into the process of dying off that I should show the other one. Oxyfern, the reverse dupe. So you grab all of these, as many as you can, you wrangle them in, you domesticate them, and your life support system is just this string of plants that will convert carbon back into oxygen in a way that conserves exactly your air pressure, but it doesn't add air pressure or remove air pressure. So now you have the problem of, at first, you actually end up with a very thin atmosphere as you build out the base. Because unlike with the algae setups, you aren't putting fresh oxygen in that was formerly solid. Yeah, so here we have this setup where I have all these oxyfern ready to do their good work. And to facilitate this, hey, I have these wood burners. Their purpose is to put more gas into circulation. Electricity also happens, I guess, but their main thing is creating a huge, thick cloud of carbon in the basement that stays here to feed the oxyfern so they can keep making more oxygen, which will also gradually raise the air pressure of the base over time. You can see how up here is semi-breathable. It's because it's half the pressure of everything else, because most of the air is coming into existence down here. It takes a while before you can successfully distribute all of that up into the high zones. This place is also getting ready to run an ethanol distillery. Best of luck for them with that. Anything could happen. They will need to provide their own oxygen. As you do. But yeah, Ant Farm will continue. Summer is here. The harvest